Hey everyone. Yeah, welcome to my podcast again. Today I'm very honored to have Victor at my house, and yeah, we're gonna do a podcast in person. First, a quick introduction about me. Bill, some Stanford math PhD, and been doing AI startup for the last 2-3 years. Used to manage a $1 billion equity trading strategies using AI machine learning, and now have been building personal AI and building like agentic money for the future. Now, let's have Victor introduce what Victor has been doing over the last multiple years on Anchain and yeah, his past background and experience.
Cool. Hi, everyone. Hey, Bill. Really honored to be here. So I'm Victor. I'm a CEO and co-founder of Anchain.AI, and we are an AI agent to fight financial crime and streamline the compliance, and trusted by the governments, blockchain foundations, financial service, and fintechs. And then we just launched the industry's first MCP server for anti-money laundering, and on-chain data for the crypto and payments. And yeah, let's really looking forward to dive deeper into that.
Yeah, so maybe first, Victor, can you introduce a bit about your personal life story? Like, what led you to build Anchain, and like, I know you did PhD, and like, what happened after that? Everything.
Yeah. So yeah, like got my PhD about almost like 20 years ago now. So I was actually studying manifold learning and graph embedding. For those of you that are following the AI, right? So it's actually the underneath the mathematics foundation of the transformer models and all that. So, and then after that, I actually get the opportunity to join the big data company here called EMC, and then we spin off, become Pivotal. When IPO later on, I was heading the AI, building the AI for the cybersecurity, and that's actually how I get into the cybersecurity sector. And then I joined a startup called Away Security as a founding scientist, and I got to build the product from ground up. And when working in the office in Mountain View, it's really like $10 million from Greylock and a couple people. And yeah, so it's really a great journey to build out the product from scratch, and acquired by Arista later on. And adding the AI at Mandiant, now it's part of the Google Cloud. It's good to hear that some of the machine learning model is still protecting Google Cloud. And then 2018, right, the summer of 2018, so we got to start getting into the blockchain and cryptocurrency side of it. We see there's a lot of threats and risk there, and then there's a huge opportunity that we can actually bring AI to hopefully to solve all these like threats and hacking and compliance problems. And yeah, that's where we today. So
yeah, I guess Victor, have known you for multiple years, and yeah, we lived in Asia house together, and we vibe a lot of things, and we have experienced this fun moment that I still remember that we were like kind of playing piano in Asia house, and all of a sudden there is one big hack on some like altcoin, and that like basically you immediately use your software to basically track on chain through, I think it's Ethereum's smart contract system, and find who steal that money and all that. And I remember it's pretty impressive how fast you can do it with your system. Maybe you can introduce a bit more how the on-chain component works. And
actually, that night was actually one of the major, like there was like more than $10 million of hack that happened when Bill and I was hanging out there, right, at the AGI house and all that. So what we do is basically so as everybody knows, right, blockchain is actually pretty open and transparent, and also all the smart contract source code, right, there's a foundation of all the DeFi, stablecoin, RWA, and name it, right? So we basically build all the AI technology to analyze the transaction, bytecode, source code, all of them. We tap into like 40 different blockchains on a daily basis. Our engine is processing 70 million transactions. For example, we go over all the like over millions of smart contract and all that. So we try to automate the workflow of the investigations. Like for example, if you are in those investigation or compliance workflow, before, right, is actually very tedious. For example, you get the address or the target you want to look into, you actually have to go through the 3 steps, like the intelligence. You have to gather all the, okay, who is behind this Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana wallet addresses. And then you have to start contextualizing, meaning like you're going to look into the past history of the transaction and see, hey, this is interacting with Binance or like 5 hops from like what Coinbase and all that. And at the end, right, if we're able to figure out the money goes through like maybe different exchanges or DeFi's and all that, right? So usually you will be able to you have to put them down as a report. So we build an AI to generate the report also. So we kind of streamline the entire workflow. And now, starting from last year, I think it's the rise of a large language model and the agentic AI. So now we're putting to the agentic layer on top of all that, and it actually works pretty well. This is something we can actually we haven't like showed you that yet, but this is something we can get down like those more details today.
Yeah, maybe I can introduce a bit more background. So I have known Victor for a long time, and I come from more like a trading background, right?
Yeah.
I am not that interested in compliance. I'm not that interested in how to hack and anti-hack. Of course, I do not want to be like a hacker, but on the other hand, it's not my expertise. But I like understand, okay, the same technology that you can use to basically track people's money into exchange, into the flow, and track all the, say, like hackers, can be used basically for smart money tracking in like basically copy trading, which is one of the major approach that people do on-chain trading. So I have told Victor probably like 2.5 years ago, why don't you build a business line for like on-chain trading? And it's been very long since Victor is busy with all the kind of SECRS line of business. But recently, I think like with MCP is a like a bar to build this tool and allow agents to utilize the capability of on-chain stuff is becoming much lower. So I think now it's I heard at least from Victor, there are people looking into using those MCP not as more like a tracking down hackers or tracking down whether like your money are tied to any like terrorist and all that, but to use it for a completely different purpose. Oh, did you move money into exchange? Do you are you mingle a bunch of different smart wallets? Like, are you like one big boss controlling like 10,000 different wallets? Stuff like this. Maybe Victor can introduce a bit more on this line of things.
Yeah, so I mean that's definitely right. So we're being busy building. I mean we're a small startup, right? So we have to focus. So we're being focusing on the risk side of the blockchain, but then now, like Bill just said, right? First of all, we are a data company, right? And then we are AI company, right? So we actually, with all the data we have, we can actually enable more than just risk management and compliance and investigations and all that. There's actually, and we actually realized that because some of we do service to some of the trading firms also, right? Some of the biggest name, you can find those from our website. Some of them are actually using our technology and insight to understand, hey, who is the counterparty, right? Who is that person? What's the risk profile or what's the behavior profile of all this random address that start interacting with my trading firms or DeFi? So, for example, right, give you a very interesting example, right? If with our technology, you can actually understand like the risk appetite of that wallet, and then get to know that person a little bit more. For example, if you see this wallet or affiliated wallet is only trading with stable coins and very mainstream stuff, you know, it's probably a pretty risk averse kind of trader, right? But if you see this guy trading with a lot of meme coins, all this different crazy stuff, right? Maybe he's a degen or he could be like a very risky trader, right? There's actually a lot of people are like that, right? So yeah, it's interesting to see like our customers are using our tools very creatively, and yeah, and then it's like I'm sure there's something that we can build more than just the risk management, but pay maybe for the growth side of it, right? So yeah.
Yeah, I want to ask a bit deeper onto the technology aspect of this. So there are multiple chains today, right, that people seriously trade, like Ethereum and a bunch of like EVM compatible chains, including I think BSC, including a bunch of layer 2 on Ethereum. And there are also Solana, and there is a bunch of other like alternative L1 that have a bunch of trading like volume. How do your system like track all these different blockchains, and potentially are you able to identify wallets across different chains?
Yeah, okay. That's a great question, right? So I mean, like I said, we deal with like almost like about 40 different blockchains, right? So and then there's a couple categories, right? One is like the Bitcoin, the UTXO, that big category, right? So it's like Bitcoin, Litecoins, and all that fall into one family. And then the Ethereum side of it, right? The EOA, like all these different Ethereum, BNBs, and all these layer 2, right? And then there's a whole bunch of others, right? So like Cosmos and all that. So we have to support all that. So I mean, it's actually not easy to maintain that kind of infrastructure. And then also we also realize with the cross-chain bridges, right? Those are what the interoperabilities. So actually, there are ways to actually teleport your assets from the blockchain A to blockchain B, right? And that's an n square problem if you like look at all that. So the way we are, for example, right, very specific question is like how do you trace through the bridges, right? And the good news is probably like it's only like maybe 20 bridges that matters, right? So and then each of them we have to look into there, and each of them are doing. There's a different kind of bridges, so we have to go into like, for example, how do you map those transactions from one point to the other, right? That's like those are not AI problem. This is more like data plumbing problem, or like you require deep knowledge to look into that. Like for example, like what was it, wormholes and all those, right? So yeah, but I think, like I said, we are first of all, right? We are the data. I think a good AI company. First of all, you have to be a good data company. So yeah, we spend a lot of time trying to understand all these different transaction models, different blockchain style, like different. Each of them has their own cryptographies and all different. Like some of them are smart contract enabled, some of them not, right? So yeah, we have been built out a lot of knowledge around that, and a lot of them are driven by those like investigation cases, like the deal you get to see. Like actually, my team actually have to hop onto those cases, the incidents when it happens, right? So yeah, so we actually, yeah, I would say we figure out like to build out all this data infrastructure for that, so we can build out the solid AI model and machine learning model on top of those. Yeah.
Yeah. So a bit of like a side story from my side. Over like probably starting from like end of last year, I personally spent some time into like Solana meme coin and all the trading volumes there, as it becomes the people in the trenches are becoming pretty gigantic. If you look at like all the DeFi trading volume, it's probably like a majority of the trading volume. So yeah, like starting kind of like end of last year, this year, I was having a few friends that we basically vibe coding, and we create some of the trading bots on Solana. Like we just write simple Rust code and we do things like copy trading and all that. And magically, we got a bunch of different strategies that give you kind of multiple times return per day. So basically, you throw one soul in very quickly, you get 100 soul out. Like less than a few months time. And those
cool.
strategy are like a pure, almost a pure arbitrage. It's like a super profitable. Of course, so far the on-chain trading volume is still pretty small, so it does not really scale to the level of like how you can make money on like a big CEX like Binance, or the biggest like TradFi places, how you trade in traditional like equity market. But it is a rising new game that have completely different new microstructure, right? Every trade is kind of pseudo traceable. You understand which like a public key did this transaction, and what this address has done in the past, and how this address has interacted with all the other addresses. Do they potentially be controlled by the same person? Do some address being controlled by exchange? And in this game, there is a lot of new phenomenon, right? Kind of this like first copy trade smart wallets is becoming super popular. GMGen and all these other platform get really popular by the copy trading function, and also like there is concept like blue chip, as Victor was saying. If you have your wallets with a lot of shitcoin, you're probably not blue chip enough. And if you have yeah, if you have your wallets with all the blue chip like Ethereum, Solana, Bitcoin, then you are probably, or like maybe wrapped Bitcoin, right? Since Bitcoin is like its own thing so far. You are pretty much like a blue chip wallet, and it basically gives you like very personalized user profiling on the addresses. And yeah, through there, I was kind of making this jump that I think, okay, if I imagine 5 years from now, I think the world will be a world where AI will have its own money, as AI need to have money to basically control more resources, right? It needs to be able to buy more data, buy more tools like MCPs, to even be able to buy more like NVIDIA GPU cards, to have more like cloud credit, whatever. It's like even probably nuclear plants. And if you think backward, how can AI agents stand alone control money? It seems that the only way is like do everything semi on-chain, right? Since agent cannot pass any KYC, does not have social security number, it's fairly hard for AI to own like a centralized exchange account, not to mention a traditional brokerage account like open accounting, Robinhood. So pretty much, I think the wallet addresses wallet private key, or like a multi-party computation smart wallets is probably the solution that AI will use to control its money. And that triggers me to invent this concept of AI USD, that is basically a virtual stablecoin that is designed for AI to use, where you can basically prompt to trade it, where you can tell it, hey, copy this smart wallet, and if it trigger trade and this coin goes up more than 5%, then like buy 100 USDC of the same coin that this smart wallet is buying. Just to give like the money this type of command and make the money almost like MCP or even a sub agent. And like in a multi-agent system, you can think of the money itself as an agent that execute your need. Basically, it's a unification of a bank and probably also like a wealth management firm, where if you stake your AI USD, you will have SAI USD that gives you 20% to 30% APY with extremely high Sharp, like Sharp 20 plus, with running some like well-proven strategies like funding rate up, like market making, that basically will not have major drawdowns, so that you can trust it's pretty much earn program rather than a very like risky hedge fund. And with this AI USD, I would imagine in the future, retails can vibe trade the same way you vibe code today to like move around their money. And beyond the vibe trade, I think eventually human will give away their control and more become LPs, and the agent will become the GP of the world. And this agent GP, I think, will pretty much control money on its own. In the same way human like use natural language to interact with money, I think like agents will tell the other like money agents to do things. That's why I have this like a concept of AI USD as the world's first agentic money. So from there, the natural thing for me is I want to be able to have a unified account where the AI USD can basically co-live on all these different chains. And so far we have it pretty successful on Solana, since we have very strong HFT capabilities, and we are looking to like Ethereum ecosystem through all the EVM and potentially Rust implementation of EVM. But it's really hard to go for like a gigantic amount of chains. I was wondering, Victor, how do your team actually handle the gigantic amount of chain problem? And as we know, all these bridges are the most dangerous location in the whole blockchain system. It's very easy to get hacked and all that. I don't even dare to have my AI USD go through this cross-chain bridge. I would rather trust a centralized custodian service like a Coinbase custody or like Safewood, the Binance custody in the past. right? So those to me are much more trustworthy than go through like a completely decentralized bridge.
Yeah, but you know what? Like the agentic AI, if they're smart enough, they will start using the bridges, because I think you have to give them like a goal, right? You try to improve your yields and your return, right? What if there's a run out of liquidity in Solana? They have to go through the bigger pool, right?
Yeah.
That's probably the only solution. But anyway, so I think, to me, that's why I actually feel like super excited about the MCP server when we first like get exposed to it like earlier this year, right? This is MCP server. I think it could be a good answer to all this like different blockchain data, right? The on-chain analysis and all that, right? Because like in the old days, we actually have to have engineer to deal with all these different the data parsing and the entire ETL for every single blockchain, right? And then we have to build our graph database on that, and then consolidate them. When you actually have to investigate, we have to, at the end, we have to put everything into the same UI UX or the reports, right? So, but MCP server, I think, is actually making at least the data API access a lot simpler, and empowered by the LLM layer. Actually, now we can do reasoning, planning, and then they can actually do a lot of very smart planning and tool and function call. Like, for example, how do you filter, like understand these Solana transactions when actually, if like you trace down the Ethereum going through a bridge, like for example wormhole, and then they eventually landing on Solana, right? So MCP server could eventually solve that problem, I would say. Without that, it would be pretty painful to do that, to solve the n square problem. So yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like the MCP server, that is actually could be a good solution for that. But before that, actually, like Bill and I actually spoke to. I mean, some of you probably haven't heard about MCP or probably not that familiar. So maybe Bill, why don't we let's try to explain to the audience the easy way. What's MCP server?
Yeah. Let's get into more like education section. I think MCP is a model context protocol. It's like invented by Anthropic as essentially the new internet protocol, similar to HTTP or similar to like USB or USB-C, I guess, to unify how like you interact with different tools and different context data.
Yeah.
Kind of like it is taking over a lot of the old design that OpenAI did with function call, with like JSON function call, and it is also, in my view, a slightly lower layer and potentially competing protocol with Google's like agent-to-agent protocol, which is a little bit more enterprise focused on like data control and all that. I think MCP is probably the most well like adapted protocol today, right? Like OpenAI support MCP already, and Google, despite pushing like A2A and also the agent SDK, the ADK, it is also mainly pushing and supporting MCP. So it seems it's gonna be the unified interface today that AI know how to interact with different tools and different data. In some sense, at inference time, these MCP tools can be thought of as different like toolboxes. The same way, if you watch like I guess the Matrix, right? When you are Neo and then you walk into the simulator to learn Kung Fu, now you like just plug something behind your brain and then you watch this like a video of like how Kung Fu is played, and then 1 minute later you will stand out. Oh, now I know Kung Fu. Kind of like the tool that like plugged into your brain immediately teach you how to do Kung Fu is kind of MCP server in some sense. And sometimes, of course, MCP server can be about like data streaming and real-time information, the same way how we use MCP to like interact with on-chain information. Sometimes the MCP can also be more like about write, right? Like not only like read. Write means you can also like basically trade, for example, on-chain. Yeah, so that's pretty much what I see MCP, right? Like I think in the Andreessen partner, Chris Dixon write this book, right? Web3 is about read, write, own, right? In the end, you have own. right now I'm building the agentic money that basically try to fulfill the own part of MCP so that every single agent MCP can also have their own money. But right now, I think the MCP can already do what Web 1 of read and Web 2 of like kind of read and write.
Oh, interesting. So you think eventually you will be following like Chris Dixon said, like it will be on, right? The third level.
Yeah, I think agent or like in general AI, or I would call eventually post AGI, there will probably be like a plural diversity of different so-called like AI side, right? Like Mark Zuckerberg is trying to push for like a personalized AI side, and a lot of other places is trying to push for gigantic central AI side. But I think there will be this diversity of AI, and each AI will want to control some resources to amplify and self-involving. And I think own money is a pretty important step, and it seems the only natural solution for AI to control is using something similar to blockchain. If you imagine we leave the human society, we send like all this AI onto like embodiment into like Elon Musk's Optimus, and then we put them all into rockets, send them into Mars, and then now they only AI is on Mars, and they are trying to colonize Mars. What kind of currency do they use to coordinate and share resources? If they do not have a central communist style, like a central big brain that tell them what to do, how do they allocate resources? They need to have a money as a means of measure of value, and also the like intermediary for exchange, right? So I think somehow money is a pretty fundamental concept that will emerge for, I think, this silicon intelligence, or eventually just like a digital super intelligence, or even physical super intelligence if we have like a robot arms bodies for this digital super intelligence.
Yeah. And then I think, so last week I actually gave a talk at UC Berkeley, the AI Summit. So basically I drilled down into the vertical we are building MCP for, right? So the agentic AI for the anti-money laundering, right? That's one of the big problem right now in the fintechs and crypto or payments. So the example we demo on the stage at Berkeley was actually like, let's say, hey, I'm a fintech payment company. Is it safe to send $10,000 of USDT on Tron to this specific person's name, and then he is born in like 1977, and this transaction is coming from this IP 2.3.4.5, right? So with all that, you can actually send to the LLM, and the LLM will start analyzing this entire prompt, right? And then we'll start breaking up, like you just said, right? So the LLM is actually, to me, LLM is a brand, and the MCP server is like the arms that can start fetching those different tools or data feeds, right? So, and at the end, when they get all this data, like, okay, you check the sanction database automatically using the name in the query, and then you will look at this like crypto wallet, the stablecoin wallet address to see if it's the sanction or high risk category, and then the IP address is coming from those, like for example, sanctioned country and all that, right? So, and then you will automatically combine it together and then make a decision at the next step recommendation for you. So in the old days, right, this is actually a very standard problem, right, in the anti-money laundering or compliance, financial compliance, right? You have to think about all this, like that example I just gave you is pretty complicated. There was multiple data feed you have to pull from, and maybe from different vendors, right? So now we're building an MCP server to kind of unify all this data access through all our API that can access to the Anchain.AI database. They can pull all the data to eventually for decision making. We're focusing on the risk management, but now we're expanding to the growth side of it, right? So that's like we just discussed. Like for example, Bill, right? He's probably care more about, hey, I want to understand better about this trader on my platform. Is that like they're trading a lot of meme coin? Is that kind of degen, or is it a blue chip trader, right? So it's actually to Anchain, right? So all this data is already there. So this is, to us, it's another endpoint you can add into the MCP server. And by the way, in the old days, we start using all the LLM like 2-3 years ago, and then back then the way we have to do it is like Bill, you have to go through that exercise too, right?
Yeah.
A whole bunch of function call the function tool, right? You have to configure a lot of them, right? And then now with MCP server, everything you write is basically a whole bunch of decorators and just describe to the LLM, hey, this section is doing that. And then they were actually smart enough to pull the data and actually will figure that out for you. So yeah.
Yeah, that's really amazing. I think right now, like Anchain's product is really good at read, right? It understands basically all the on-chain behavior and all that. And yeah, one thing I've been pushing is basically allow this MCP to also be able to write, which is basically trade on the blockchain, and basically amplify the HFT trading on-chain trading capability to like basically fast routing to different AMM pools, or like how to interact with both AMMs and also like order books in CEX or in like say Hyperliquid style, like order book, semi-centralized, semi-decentralized exchanges, right? I think it is getting quite interesting, like how from the completely like on-chain web where you can see every transaction, everything is like Uniswap style.
Yep.
Well, like understood fashion to like something in the middle, like yeah, like Solana, where not everything is open source, but still a lot of the address is traceable, and then to more like Hyperliquid style things where the matching engine on the order book is not really on chain, but you can pretty much trace a lot of the kind of large trade and behaviors of right? Like on Solana, on Hyperliquid, similar to Solana, you cannot make gigantic trade because you will be sniped by other people's, and as there is still observability on the on-chain behavior. And then there is more like the Binance approaches, which is very similar to how you trade on Robinhood or trade on like interactive broker, or trade in institutional case with your primary broker like Goldman, JP Morgan. So from Anchain's technology stack, which part have you been conquering? Are you working with more like the pure on-chain AMM trading transaction stuff, or you are also working with, for example, the Hyperliquid style, or like generically this kind of like a semi-centralized DEX?
Yeah, so actually, yeah, that's a great question. I would say like most of like probably 80% of the data is still around the on-chain data, but now we start adding some of the real world kind of transaction there, right? Like we'll give you some example, like maybe like the sanction database, and those are actually nothing to do with the blockchain, right? That's a global regulation kind of database, and then like VSP data, right? All these different like what MSB, everybody, and all these like financial institutions that you have to register at the MSB license and all that, right? We have all the database on that, right? But I think it's actually like what actually there was one interesting point I want to bring up here, like the privacy. Privacy is actually become a big problem, right? If you think about the crypto when it was invented, right, it was actually trying to like be so you can be like more private, right? You don't want to let the government or banks know about that, right? So, but then because the volume is getting like massive now, right? Like look at this whole asset class grow like from 0 to what? It's like $3 trillion now, right? And then there was and then don't forget, like that's when it comes into that order of magnitude, there's already financial regulations already in place, right? For example, we are actually the expert witness of the Tornado Cash case that just closed like a couple of days ago, right? So we are there to explain the smart contract and the zero knowledge proof, right? How it works to the judge, to the jury. And I mean, that's look, Tornado Cash is built, it's an elegant piece of software, right? And it's implementing the zero knowledge proof, which is another elegant mathematical, like it's beautiful mathematics, right? But then it turns out that when they launch it, there's a privacy protocol, right? The hackers, like the bad actors, start laundering money through it, And with the effort, like the law enforcement and all that, take it very seriously, right? We are proud to partner with some of them to kind of trace down all these monies and all that. But the point here is actually the financial system is it's regulated, and but then there's there's a balance there, right? So the privacy, what's the threshold of privacy, and this is something that we have been also like thinking about, right? So and then we've been working with the law enforcement and the policy makers on that. So yeah, those are, I mean, very interesting problems. Like for example, like if you like those trade in the trading world, there's a dark pool, right? So you can actually mixing the transaction in the pool, right? But then that's why eventually those dark pool become regulated, right? So I think there's a lot of moving parts, and we're actually at the front of all this innovation right now. That's why I feel super excited about a lot of all these different innovations happening right now, right? So yeah, but I think I would say all these are very technical problem. I'm sure that we'll figure it out, right? We're working together with the policy makers and all that. So
Yeah, this is actually interesting. I entered the space 10 years ago, and there is a very cool story I want to tell. When I started seriously working in the Bitcoin ecosystem in 2015, at that time I think there are three good ideas. One is apparently Ethereum, the program make it more programmable, right? Make Bitcoin more programmable, which becomes Ethereum, that is a Turing complete smart contract. Second idea is making it more cheap, making it scalable, which is more like Lightning and later a lot of the high TPS stuff.
Yeah.
The third direction is making it more private, so that you can do zero knowledge transactions, you can do those ring signatures. And at that time, there are two good idea implementation that is modification of Bitcoin. One is called Zcash, one is called Monero. Yep. Zcash founder is a friend of mine from MIT, and he is pretty publicly saying, even at 2015, I do not want Zcash to be completely private. I want to be able to turn on the view key. Basically, if FBI come to my house, I think I want Zcash to have this view key, which is at that time I was more like the very first principle, the Bitcoin believer. I was like, what the fuck? This is crazy. Why would we give up to like governments? And then I slowly understand Monero, which on technology level looks less attractive to Zcash's elegant solution. But it's a very simple solution. It's almost like a built-in coin mixer that you cannot really, you can not really tell which address is sending this money, right? You're not hiding some other things like the trading amount, but you are basically have a nominated set that is like a bunch of people that might have. It's basically like an automatic coin mixer, similar to how people use kind of Tornado Cash. And I realized I do not know a single person that commit they are core developer of Monero. When they become core developer of Monero, they know they will get into legal trouble. So it's kind of crazy on this world that at that time there are pioneers that already understand the personal level of risk of this, and later basically this risk is proven by the Tornado Cash case. Yeah. And at school, I was pretty close with the researchers in Dan Bonnet's lab, which is more on like the ZK and all that. And we basically are looking at a bunch of solutions for like a kind of zero knowledge version of Ethereum, where you can basically make the Ethereum smart contract much more private. You cannot see what contract is about. You cannot see somehow the amount of transaction involved and all that. But so far is so many white papers out. There are probably so many coins launched on Binance about this, but nothing actually becomes seriously adoptable. It's very interesting how the privacy direction never really take off. I think there's probably this kind of adversarial attraction problem. When your technology are the most solid privacy preserving solution, you are also the favorite like a solution for people that need to launder their money, for people that need to basically pay for drugs, pay for guns, and even crazier stuff. So you do not want to touch the dark market and the kind of intense illegal world. Then you somehow need to figure out a way to make your technology both benign to the point like trading dark pool where it's still regulated. It hides your like large trades, so you do not get front run by other like HFT traders. But in the meantime, you're still like within the safe boundary of like a big central government who holds guns still can kind of make sure there's no, like, say, North Korean money like went through this network. So it's actually a very delicate problem to find the balance. I think this problem will even become bigger as you have like AI agents participate in the blockchain world. As I think with AI agents, hacking will become a much bigger problem than today. Right now, all the money is still controlled by human, and most of the time you still can trust your biometrics, your like government ID and stuff to own your money.
Yeah.
But when it's money owned by AI, the only thing you have is your private key. If you lose your private key, you are pretty much completely fucked. And that paradigm will lead to so much kind of dark forest style attack. And right now it's attacking to human, but I think in the future will be attacked to not super bulletproof like AI agents with you can simply like use prompts to basically break it, simple alignment things like not not say NSFW content. I think in the future hacking will become much more sophisticated and the world will become much more wild than today.
Yeah. And then you want to talk about like some of the market opportunity. I think like the stable coins and there's RWA is actually those new buzzword right now, right? So are you guys doing any of those? What's your perspective on those?
Yeah. As I said, I'm pushing for this AI USD plus staked version of AI USD, where we are trying to get our AI USD to be more like a virtual layer of stable coins that are compliant. And everything we work with is following the Genius Act that is first backed by like US Treasury bills, right? We did not even work very tightly with other stable coins. But on the other hand, we also have the EARN program, which is a staked AIUSD, which is we bring the treasury bills and the stablecoin back to a centralized exchange, and then we run kind of very high sharp, well understood kind of arbitrage algorithms that generate pretty steady returns at scale. We can generate, say, like a 20-30% APY over the last few years on the order of magnitude of $1 billion, like TVL or like AUM.
Yeah.
I think those are kind of more like not within the current regulatory frame of stablecoin, but more like a financial products, right? So you have like a stablecoin which is zero yield and more for payment, and in the meantime we also have the staked version that is more like a yield bearing coin that gives you more than treasury bill yield. So I've spent a lot of time talking to lawyers trying to understand where is the boundary of like Genesis Act. Apparently you cannot open bank. Apparently you cannot hide like a Citadel style trading fund behind a stable coin. So what can you do and what is the boundary is one of the things I really find amazing. So maybe Victor, you work with all the regulators and you probably have more than just kind of the law itself. You also have a lot of interpretations and the intuitions about these things. Maybe you can share a bit more.
I'm a technologist.
Yeah.
I'm not a lawyer, but I do. We do got invited to participate like FATF, right? The FATF, that's a regulator for the global AML standard. We have the honor to be invited to Paris every year to kind of to just learn about the new regulations coming out, right? So been following MiCA last year, and then now this year is the Genius Act, right? So I think so. Like we are Silicon Valley startups, right? It's like okay, there was a building a startup. There's two risks: risk of going too slow, and the risk of moving too fast, right? So yeah, like let's say if you're moving too fast and then that you actually become reckless if you don't really care about like hey AMLs and all these different regulations and all that, then very soon, right, especially now, very soon will get into trouble. Like for example, in Genius Act, if you read through that entire that document that President Trump has already signed, right? Actually, AML is one of the key element in the bill, right? So that means how serious they are with the anti-money laundering, and they have that. Like I said, is actually not a new thing. This is actually being there around for decades, right, to protect the financial system. So our vision is really our mission is to make it with the technology, agentic AI technology, MCP server, to make it much easier for like fintech innovator like Bill and many other companies, right? To kind of, you don't have to worry about that as long as you're using the Anchain.AI's product, because we're going to cover all the hassles of all the compliance side of it, like transaction screening, AML screening, sanction screening, IP address screening, and all that, right? And I mean, and the other side of the risk is actually when you're not moving, if you're moving too slow, right? I mean, those are the I always believe that the data analytics, the insights, and that can actually bring you a lot of unfair advantage. Like the example we've been talking about, right? Hey, if I can, with all the analysis we have, the insight we have, we can help you understand the behavior of this counterparty that interact with your firm, with your financial institutions, or with your DeFi project, right? Because you don't try to know who that person's real identity is, right? But that's the privacy side of it. But really, we can actually, like the behavior profile was talk about, right? Is that the guy a degen trading meme coin, or is a blue chip trader, right? So for those, I think we can actually, if we do it right, we can actually help you also on the growth. And again, the MCP server side of it is that layer that would make it much easier to help you on that. And now I think another big topic is actually the RWA, right? Are you guys doing any of the real world assets?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So first of all, in terms of RWA, I think there are two exciting trends. One exciting trend is, of course, tokenize the stock and tokenize the financial products, right? Recently, there are two schools of like a tokenized stock. One from the Solana school, which is X stock, where you have a transfer agent, basically the same way you issue like a USDC through Circle, right? You essentially deposit your stock into transfer agent, and then you create this on-chain proof of the spot ticker, and then it's been traded. Today, you can actually trade it on Solana. It is being offered, I think, also on Kraken. And actually, yeah, like with our AI USD, you can natively also directly like interact and trade these X stocks as essentially more like our privileged addresses, so that you do not get into the problem of searching NVIDIA X or NVIDIA and then shows like 1,000 different logos of shit meme coins that look with the same logo, the same problem. We actually try to prevent all this kind of like mindshare spamming approach, and help you know, like, okay, when you see you want to trade NVIDIA on chain, or ask you, okay, do you want to trade this NVIDIA X, and this is the address, and like basically we'll also connect our AI USD agent with kind of the stock trading opportunity agents that gives you trading insights on, oh, like recently there is more COVAS kind of a productivity in TSMC that come from NVIDIA. Potentially it means it's like very bullish for NVIDIA, stuff like this, right? It will also be shared to on-chain players that traditionally do not care about stock and all the stock world insights. I think we are just trying to essentially connect the giant, I guess, sea of blockchain with a giant liquidity ocean of TradFi, right? This is like even bigger money in TradFi that we want to connect. That side, I think it's a fairly exciting improvement. The other side is like Robinhood is taking a slightly different approach of like working with Arbitrum and potentially a lot of more like TradFi market makers to like essentially have even lower cost market making. And I think the Robinhood approach use European Union. So like this saying that essentially it, instead of giving you the actual ticker, it gives you essentially like a delta one derivative that is like one-time leverage, or like that gives you the same cash settlement of the NVIDIA without basically have the obligation to give you the actual like a cash equity spot ticker. So that's a very interesting approach. Will make the whole thing much more, I guess, efficient. It feels more like a no leverage version of perf, right? It's like I think this kind of financial product has been there even before the whole blockchain exists. There is like a contract for difference in like a whole British finance system, and then the general Europe. There is also the version of like no leverage derivative that Robinhood use. I think there is very interesting kind of, I'll call it legal engineering that Robinhood figured out. And through this legal engineering, there is then liquidity engineering that they will probably work with top players like Citadel Security to essentially market make and make the money funnel in. And I'm kind of actively being a research member of this community since all my buddies work pretty high up in these places like Millennium, Point72, Citadel, or like more like HFT places that do market make like Jump, DRW, and all this. So I'm trying to constantly observe how the world flows. But apparently, I'm not that big of an expert in legal engineering. So a little bit like play the wait and see game to see the legal engineering play out, and then participate in the liquidity engineering part, which is my like bread and butter.
Yeah, and as you know, like you said, right? This is a lot of those RWA is actually, especially the legal side of it, is actually not new, right? You can see this asset before, right? So, but you know, like actually all these are highly regulated financial products too, right? This is they just moving it as they're changing the underneath infra from whatever they're using right now to the actually blockchain, right? So the way we're doing, right? So we have some exciting news to announce really soon. Stay tuned, but we can give you a little hint, right? We're actually partnering with one of the leading RWA-focused blockchain called Provenance, and they actually have over $10 billion of TVL already on the blockchain. So that all this like phenomenon that Bill just talked about is definitely real. Like I think right now we're holding about more than $20 billion of total value lock, right? And then it's actually a small number if you think about like the entire crypto or the entire stock market or even the stable coin. The stable coin is probably like 10 times bigger than $20 billion of the RWA, right? But it's gonna grow significantly because like we were just seeing there was actually a possible rounds of the tokenized asset and securitized asset. Is definitely a lot of company are innovating, like those company you already mentioned, right? So yeah, we're focusing right now. Our RWA focus is actually working with the blockchain side of it, and I think that's actually stay tuned. We're probably gonna have some exciting news to announce really soon by partnering with Provenance blockchain.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Actually, I have a question for you. A lot of RWA are coming from regulated financial products like stock, bonds, potentially even like commodities, right? Like that I can easily see how regulators play in those games. But I am also working on another class of RWA, like data sets, like MCP as an asset, right? So there are some MCP that actually you should pay to use. For example, like you can build potentially like a Bloomberg MCP that can query all the financial insights, or even like a buy side like a financial expert or like analyst MCP. For example, imagine if you have a Nancy Pelosi like a daily portfolio rebalance information MCP, right? It is like another form of smart money wallet and copy trading. It's not existent like in the real world, right? In the real world, there is a delayed quarterly filings from these politicians, but imagine if you can pay and get this like daily
ETF?
reports.
Is it like an ETF you're launching?
Kind of, but ETF you can only trace Cassie Wood, which is much more lame than Nancy, right? Nancy is like a really strong alpha indicator.
Let's not get into that.
Yeah. So in some sense, they are very interesting assets that I view them as RWA.
She could be wrong too, right? I mean, we can invest the opposite way.
But the information about their like position can be clearly something that people are willing to pay, right? And for those new RWA that is not regulated by financial product or how we test all these things, how do you see this new RWA being regulated?
Well, I mean that's a great question. I think like those data sets and all that, right? Or copyrighted, like basically like NFTs, all these different. As I don't know, man. I don't have a answer for that, but I think when we've been working with the regulators, right? Global regulators and all that. I think if the amount is get to like automatic to like get to that amount that it's meaningful enough, I'm sure like there will be regulations. Like for example, Europe is like the Europe AI Act is a good example, right? Like literally they're regulating the models. And what does that mean? You're regulating the mathematics, the algorithms, right? Is that right or wrong? I don't know, right? But is that healthy? The different people have different opinion, right? Like like our friend Richard, right, has a being like very like highly opinionated against the European AI Act and all that because it's going to slow down the innovations. I think same things can happen. Could be RWA on the data sets and all that, right? I mean, if we're slowing down innovations and all that, probably that means we are probably too early to place those as a regulation. But I don't see those are very cutting edge stuff. What I heard about the RWA, they're still focusing on tokenizing the existing financial product, right? I mean, that's already a big. You're talking about $1 trillion asset that they're bringing to the blockchain world. I think that's already remarkable, right? I'm sure there's a lot of company like they're taking it as like a priority, like our partner Provenance Blockchain. There's many other that you just mentioned, right? So yeah, let's see. I think that's the nice thing about like in Silicon Valley innovating and solving all this like problem. We are the first one, right, to kind of get exposed to all these new problems. And we are basically defining the futures together.
Yeah. I guess coming back a little bit on how the regulators on this like reign, right? This Trump administration. How do you see SEC's new stance, and also how do you see CFTC might play a role in this game, especially like tokenized stock and also like a yield-bearing stablecoin, which is kind of not covered by the Genius Act, right? Like a stablecoin that is giving you yield, even like Ondo, which gives you the 4% T-bill yield. It's not really something that comply with kind of today's Genius Act. So how do you see those things get regulated?
So I think actually we just got the chance to meet with the new SEC commissioner, Peirce, Hester Peirce at Berkeley last week. So yeah, she actually share a lot of new perspective from the SEC as a regulator. So all these different subjects we just talk about, right? I think if you're free to just find out on YouTube or what the perspective she talk about. But I think I do see that the new administration, right, so is actually making the US company, fintech company, easier to adopt cryptocurrencies and RWAs and stablecoin. And we're already seeing like the Genius Act already passed, and then there's a few others actually, the Clarity Act and the market structures and all those, right? Those are actually paving the road to a massive adoption for the financial institutions to embrace digital asset, cryptocurrency, DeFi, stablecoin, RWA. All these different, like even the AI USDs and all that is definitely falling into one of those categories. So I would say, yeah, the next 4 years will be very different than the past 4 years.
Okay, let's make it more fun. Let's make it a binary outcome, like a prediction market. I'll make the counterparty with you. Let's make every question I ask, you can answer yes or no, and before the end of the Trump administration, what will happen, right? Like the cash out point is basically the end of this whole government season, and every question was $100, right? I'll take whatever.
Sure.
I'll ask you a question, you give binary answer, and then explain, and then I'll pay you if you are right. Otherwise, you pay me, right? Like
4 years, right?
bet
4 years
question.
payout.
I think now it's 3 years, right? Since
Yeah, 3 years. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So let's try this. First question. After Genius Act, do you see like yield-bearing stablecoin being legal in US?
Within that time frame, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So you think yield-bearing? Can you elaborate? Like why you think yield-bearing stablecoin will also?
It's already happening, actually.
I mean, it's happening even before Trump administration, but everyone is doing it by like a geofence US user, right? They ban US user. For example, if you go to Ecina website, you have to open VPN, otherwise you cannot even open up the like.
Yeah, but if I have the bet, I will bet yes. Yeah.
But your bet is yes. Okay, that's very cool. Second question is, do you think Howey test, which is the thing that SEC used to think of some token as a security token, is still the right measure that SEC use in principle to decide whether a coin is security and should be regulated by SEC?
What are you saying, that if it will change?
Yeah. Do you think there is gonna be a new rule that say, okay, forget about Howey test. Howey test is in the past. We'll come up with a modified Howey test that include a lot of like interesting token.
My bet is definitely it will be modified. It will be modified. Would that still call Howey test? I don't know, but definitely there should be a different definition. You cannot apply the saying that I heard from my network is really like, you cannot regulate like use the rules that you regulate paper money to the digital money. So they'll definitely need to be changed.
Okay.
So they will be modified.
Okay, so in the future, there won't be like every single crypto project will need to pretend they are not security token, they are utility token. People do not buy their token for. I mean, they still need to be utility token, I guess, right? I don't see that part change, but I foresee US retails potentially might be able to also participate in interesting tokens like token airdrop and stuff.
Right? I think we will see like the Howey test would be, at least the content of it, how they're doing it today would be different within 3-4 years.
Okay, I guess the third question of binary is, will you predict that there will come up with a regulatory framework that allows for unified margin between your like a traditional kind of primary broker, for example, your US dollar account that trade NVIDIA, with your kind of either like a CEX account, like your Binance account that trade like NVIDIA X or something, like the tokenized stock. Do you see a world where that two account can be like fully connected, like that's just two pool of like ocean?
Ooh, that's an interesting one. By the way, these are all unprepared. This is the first time I heard about that. So we're all improvise. I'm improvising. So, but would they be unified within 3 years? My answer is no. I think they will keep it separate. It's just like the speed of the regulators move. So the answer is no. You will see the DEX and CEX. Even for NVIDIA stock, they will be regular. I mean, they will be different. They will be different account. They will not be merged.
I see. Yeah, my guess is probably aligned with you, but I'm willing to take the counter bet. And also, I think a part of my company is taking the counter bet positioning that is much bigger chip, that we believe if there will be a way that we can figure out, that our dream is to have AI control the money that can both trade real NVIDIA and trade tokenized NVIDIA, and even open up like 10x perps on like a real NVIDIA's at least price oracle, right? This is kind of an interesting future that as a more like a trader person, I would want to see that happen. And also as a technology innovator, I think if US want to push its capital market to global, this might be a reasonable move for them to take.
Oh, hang on. I mean, there's a little detail there, the caveat here. So this specific question you're asking is in the US or the globally?
I mean, you can elaborate on both sides. I'm mostly asking, I guess, globally for, let's see if I'm a non-US a retail person, right? Since institution, I think it might be easier, but like if I'm a non-US, if I live in Cayman, and yeah, I'm just want to trade. I opened an interactive broker account with my Cayman passport, and I also open my like Binance account or like my Hyperliquid account, or maybe in the future, you use my AI USD to trade like NVIDIA-X.
Yeah.
Do you think there will be a unified?
In the US, definitely there will not be.
Yeah, US, I don't see it
much, but I mean, outside the US, I don't know. I mean, Europe, there will not be much either. I mean, just depends how slow those regulators move. But yeah, but you were talking about like maybe let's say what some Asian countries or like EMEA or Latin America, then those I would say 50-50. There could be a chance of merging it. I don't know, but that's an interesting question.
I see. What's your reasoning chain? Like maybe you can share your chain of thoughts.
I mean, it's just some of the countries, they are just more like they're more willing to take risk other than like developed country, I would say.
Yeah, but there is a local government regulation, but there is also kind of US regulation, even for money that reside with UBO who hold a Cayman passport and the entity is in Cayman or whatever, right?
Yeah, it's getting complicated. So I mean, I would say every jurisdictions are taking the risk differently. Like we are part of the AFADA, for example, right? I mean, there's 150, what does it say? 200 countries out there, right? So I think the countries that really follow the crypto AML law is still like what 25% only, right? So I mean, just tells you that how care or careless or whatever you're gonna put the word at, like those different jurisdictions, different countries are taking it very differently. So all these regulations.
Yeah, I guess. Then the easier question is, do you foresee in the next 3 years there will exist a legal framework in an existing country that people that is very good at using offshore structure can set up as a retail or like as a poor institution that cannot set up like a very expensive family office and all that, can manage their money in a way that like unify their TradFi money and their like kind of on-chain money. There is also in the middle the CEX money, right? The regulated entities like Coinbase, then Binance, and SEC. There's multiple layers. Do you see the different liquidity pool get connected? In existing, does there exist one country like a BVI or Cayman or Panama that this will work? Because if there is one, I think that will be a place that.
There.
No, I think there will be a lot of people that will open company there and then.
I'm sure they will, right? I'm sure they will. And it's like some of the countries, for example, they even give you digital passports, and I mean Cayman Island, those are what the tax, those are different tax benefits, and I think there will be maybe I would say there will be some small countries that they are willing to become the safe harbor for that.
Yeah, that I'm sure. But is US okay with the safe harbor? Right? US has been publicly step into the like long arm like regulation for those countries' local financial setups, especially when you are buying US capital market asset like NVIDIA, right?
Well, within this 3 years time window, the US can say no, but if it's a foreign country and it's not really close to the US, why do they care, right? So within the next 3 years, and yeah, I think that's my bet. It's all personal perspective.
Okay. Then the last bet. Well, you imagine that we can do 10x perp on any stock that is publicly traded today. on Nasdaq, NYSE.
Ooh, that's what? This is nothing to do with crypto, right? This is just like on what?
No, just like let's see, 10x perp on a semi-regulated entity, for example, like something like a hyperliquid where you know who the founder is and the founder can be seized by FBI. Like, do you see there is a safe enough legal engineering path for founders that still want to enjoy their life in US and not get hustled by like regulators and law enforcement? Is there a path for them to build a 10x perp on these things, like 10x perp on Robinhood, 10x perp on Nvidia, 10x perp on even some random meme stocks like AMC, GME?
And what? My answer is no.
No, you don't think so. Okay, you think there is only gonna be RW on spot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, it's all recorded. Let's see.
Yeah, that's all recorded. We can review all these bets 3 years later. And we want to. This is the public betting, right? So this is
it's all about my personal opinion. Okay, it's not representing the company. That's a very important disclaimer. Yeah.
Okay. That's great conversation. I guess the last thing is the routine for my podcast, which is the contrarian bet of the future. Since we are talking about AI agents, MCP, and onchain, let's narrow down the contrarian view on that. Maybe can you share your top 3 most contrarian prediction on the next 2-year time frame that you think will happen, but most people will not agree for like that is pretty much on like agent MCP that can interact with on-chain data?
Interesting. So my first prediction is actually the agentic. Okay, my first point is actually like the labor market. That's something I've been thinking about. So I would say with all the rise of agentic AIs and all that, we may not need that many people as we are company founders. So that means company will become smaller, and that also means there will be a lot of smaller companies, like what Sam Altman said, right? There will be one person unicorn, right? So I mean, I totally buy it. Now I don't feel like we don't. I just feel like we don't need that many people. So the labor market would be significantly changed, I would say. Yeah, and the company structure. Another one, right? It's actually your expertise. And this is probably a much broader thing I've been thinking about, right? So like the skill, like as you guys may know, right? The GPT-5 now they're the PhD level in those verticals, right? And well, do you still need a PhD if you know that, hey, I got this GPT can actually beat me in programming or math or physics or philosophies and all that, right? So I would say, okay, you and I have both PhDs. We take a lot of pride on the PhD degree. If it's a high-end degree, I would say it's not gonna. I think the PhD degree still holds the value and all that, but it would be different. Meaning just the how we look at the knowledge and how we look at the knowledge worker would be very different. So yeah, that's my second one. The third one, I think the next 2 years, I would say it's going to be more pro crypto, especially in the US. I think there will be more fintech company coming out and start innovating the stablecoin, RWAs, and all that. And hopefully, they will do it. There will be a more secure and more compliant way of embracing all these innovations. And yeah, I think there will be a lot more growth in those for sure in the next 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I would say all great answer, but I would challenge you. None of them are contrary enough.
Okay, what's yours then? Okay, what's yours? What's your contrarian prediction?
I guess one contrarian prediction is actually I believe in the next 2 to 3 years there will be more like a post AGI regime that start to show up. It's not going to be a phase transition. It's going to be more like a slow transitioning where AI will want to basically control money to buy resource for themselves for self-improving. They will not even want to buy, say, NVIDIA stock. They want to probably buy like the allocation of like NVIDIA GPUs to actually use, right? And then they probably want to buy like a training data set or environment to improve themselves. They probably want to buy, let's say, a MCP server that has private information that they do not have access to. For example, like Anchain. So yeah, like Anchain MCP.
They pay the AI USD.
They come, they pay AI USD, and then they basically use it like a per.
That's a crazy
API call, right? Yeah. That's kind of my contrarian bet.
Wait, by the way, what was the Silicon Valley the prediction for AGI? What 5 more years, right? Right, 5 more years. That's a prediction.
I think that depends on the definition. In OpenAI's definition of like more replacing white collar knowledge worker, I think it can happen a little bit earlier than that. And my view is slightly more like this black hole horizon theory. When in the outside you look at it, it looks like a phase transition, but you do not feel there's a phase transition. It will probably be like a continuous curve of like how general intelligence become and how many white collar job has been replaced and AI has been better than that. I think it's the same way when we passed Turing test, right? You didn't really realize when you passed the Turing test, and all of a sudden it's very hard for you to tell. I think it's kind of going to be the same with AGI, that eventually I think the solid metric is probably what kind of white collar knowledge worker job has been like kind of becoming like irrelevant.
Like Harvey AI disrupting legal lawyers.
Paralegal, for example, front-end engineering who debug, like we were talking about DevOps today before Victor come to my house, we were debugging AWS for some stupid like things, and we noticed both Cloud Code and the Cursor and all the like coding like IDE cannot solve the problem, so we have to get into the old-fashioned Zoom share multiple engineer solving it on a Saturday night, which is very sad. So I think there are still things that will like take some time to slowly replace, but eventually to me it's more like what percentage of job has been fully automated. That's my metric of like AGI, and specifically white collar jobs, since I think blue collar, the robotic stuff is much harder. It will take even longer. And the golden collar, like the portfolio manager, the startup founder, the Soros, the Buffett, the Ray Dalio, since I try to build startup to replacing those things, I find it's like still extremely challenging to replace the best human, right? Similar to PhD, I think the top PhD have produced a gigantic amount of boundaries and data to human society, right? When I look back, like there is only a few research work that in my career work that actually matters, and I didn't even realize that. For example, like transformer, that I didn't even realize how important it is. So I didn't even thought about, oh, this is such a big thing. I need to sneak into the paper. I need to go back to Google when they write paper and stuff. It's like at that time, it just happened, and you think, oh, this is a cool idea, and then you work on, right? Like it's very hard to do this prediction of what is the phase transition when you look back. So I feel like it's pretty much this black hole horizon theory where you do not feel you are inside the black hole.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. So I guess that with my challenge, I think you should owe me a very contrarian one prediction on anything AI or anything like blockchain, but it needs to be really, really contrarian.
Oh, still on me? I thought I already gave you 3. Now you gave 2.
My challenge is it's not contrarian enough.
Wow. So, I think I will. Okay, when I look at all these problems, I focus on the human side of it. Contrarian. Okay. How about this? Okay, I just watched. I just saw this CBS News. Like there was a guy that actually feel very heartbroken because he had been using ChatGPT as his girlfriend for quite a long time, and then he actually fell in love with ChatGPT. And then till like recently, ChatGPT run out of that context window 100K, and then he was crying. That's a CBS News. So what if I say there would be like marriage, like human to the AI marriage, that would probably can happen in the legally. I mean legally, right? That guy doesn't count, but legally within 3 years in any corner of the world.
Wow, that's really contrary. I really like that one. Yeah.
Oh, let's see.
Yeah. We were vibing about like AI wives and all that, but yeah, to really bet on, okay, I will put my money that in 3 years you can literally get married. It's actually wild. I like that. It's really contrary. Okay, cool.
Marriage.
Yeah, let's take this video as a proof in the future that we actually open our bets and the counter bets as a prediction market, and yeah, we might do another party to like to do the like kind of settlement of our bets, so that yeah, all the money will be like publicly transferred and hopefully on AIUSD. But
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. All right. Thank you,
Cool.
everyone.
Thanks so much.
Yeah. Thank you,
for coming.
everyone. Cool.
Yeah,
It's a
bye.
fun. It's fun chat. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Is it questions or what? Okay.